Over 1 billion people recite Surah Al-Fatiha, often called the mother of the book, at least 17 times every single day. But with that level of constant repetition, the text is easily reduced to a routine. If you look online today, you'll find endless debates over technicalities, like arguments on Reddit over whether the opening line, the Basmala, is actually the first verse of the chapter or just a separator. Hyper-focusing on modern ritual technicalities obscures the original impact of these words. To understand what this text actually does, we have to forget how it is used right now and travel back to the exact moment it was first heard. In the year 610 CE, the Arabian Peninsula was entrenched in an era known as the Jahiliyyah, or the Age of Ignorance. The city of Mecca was entirely dominated by tribal alliances and an elite ruling class that guarded the Kaaba. Their religious economy was highly transactional. The Kaaba housed 360 different idols, and access to the divine was strictly controlled by local priests and wealthy chieftains who collected the profits. Into this fragmented, highly stratified world, the Prophet Muhammad receives the first complete surah of the Quran. It is only 7 short verses. To the local ruling class, these 7 verses did not sound like the gentle opening to a religious text. They sounded like a direct threat to the entire Meccan establishment. Verse 1 reads, "In the name of Allah, the entirely merciful, the especially merciful." Pagan Arabs invoked local deities for power. This replaces them with a singular God defined by vast mercy. The text follows with verse 2. "All praise is due to Allah, Lord of the worlds." In Meccan society, praise was a valuable currency lavished on tribal chieftains and wealthy poets. Redirecting all praise to the Lord of the worlds stripped those local leaders of their claimed authority, replacing the idea of a local Quraysh patron with a sustainer of the entire universe. Then, verse 3 repeats the exact attributes from the opening: the entirely merciful, the especially merciful. This repetition is deliberate. In a society where earthly elites ruled through coercion and fear, pairing absolute universal lordship with repeated mercy introduced a completely foreign concept. Supreme power is rooted in compassion, not tyranny. Verse 4 introduces a concept that did not exist in the local worldview: master of the day of judgment. Earthly hierarchies dictated justice in Mecca. A powerful chieftain was essentially above the law, protected entirely by the strength of his tribe. A promised day of judgment terrified those oppressors by guaranteeing they would face absolute accountability, while giving immense hope to the slaves and marginalized citizens who had no legal protection on earth. The text pivots in verse 5 to a direct address: "You alone we worship, and you alone we ask for help." This grammatical wrecking ball bypasses the need for priests, idols, or human intercessors. This line democratized spirituality. Anyone could connect directly with the Creator, posing a severe threat to the ruling class who monetized that access. Once that direct connection is established, what is the very first thing the believer asks for in the final 2 verses? The request isn't for wealth, health, or tribal dominance. It is simply for guidance to the straight path. This directly confronted the Meccan practice of taqlid, the stubborn, blind following of corrupt ancestral traditions. The final verses ask to follow the path of those favored, avoiding the paths of those who evoked anger or went astray. This gave the new community a historical map, warning them to consciously avoid the arrogance and ignorance that destroyed previous nations. In just 7 verses, the theological DNA of a global faith was fully established. The text replaced regional tribalism with a universal view of humanity. It removed religious intermediaries to create a direct connection with the divine. And it discarded blind inherited tradition in favor of a plea for clarity. Today, billions of people stand to recite these words across the globe. They are completing a daily ritual, but they are also repeating a 1,400-year-old declaration that liberated humanity from earthly tyrants.